to Australia's newest Formula One YouTube channel where we discuss all the things going on in Formula One and even a little bit outside of Formula One. I am very proud to be joined by my friend Sam. Welcome, Sam.
Hey Ben, how's it going?
Going very, very well. Now, we need to explain why our channel is called Theatre of Speed.
We do indeed. There's a reason behind it.
There is a reason behind it. The reason is that Sam and I are theatre performers in Adelaide, and a couple of years ago we did our first show together, and while in rehearsals for that show, I overheard Sam talking to someone about Formula One, and Sam and I hadn't really talked. So I went and quietly said to Sam, "Do you like Formula One?" And Sam was like, "Yeah." And we've been good friends ever since. We talk all the time about Formula One. We have different experiences in Formula One, but we are both from Adelaide, which is where the first World Championship Formula One Grand Prix was held in Australia, a moniker that we hold on to proudly, despite the fact that the Grand Prix is currently in Melbourne, but we proudly hold on to the fact that Adelaide was the first.
The real home of Australian F1 Grand Prix, let's be honest. I've alienated our Victorian listeners and watchers already, but that's okay.
So Sam, tell me a bit about what age were you when you first found Formula One?
Yeah, well, my first F1 memory, I remember specifically, I was sitting at home and I was watching the 1990 Australian Grand Prix here in Adelaide. My brother and my dad were at the race. It was a bloody hot day from memory. It was a very hot day. Nelson Piquet was the winner on that day. I think it was the 500th F1 Grand Prix from memory as well. I remember it being a really milestone race and watching it at home. And that's my first real memory. But obviously, I don't think I ever watched it live. But I've watched the 1989 big wet Australian Grand Prix as well on ad nauseum over the years as well. But my first live memory of watching F1 on TV was the 1990 Australian Grand Prix. How about you, Ben?
Well, I'm a little bit older than you, Sam.
Not that much.
So my first memory is actually 1986. We were around one of my parents' places and they were watching the 1986 Australian Grand Prix, and as we as kids were half interested and running around the outside of the house being Formula One cars, and that's where the bug got me as far as Formula One is concerned. And then from the 1987 season onwards, I have never missed a race. It got me. It hooked me. That is the only way to describe it. So, can we go back into the past, Sam, just to see a few memories of you, a few images that you've kindly shared.
Sure. I've got one up on the podium at Albert Park. I was there for a family holiday, and as some people may know, those stands, the pit buildings in Albert Park are there permanently. There's use for fitness and all that kind of thing. And so I went up where the podium is and did the Michael Schumacher Schumi victory jump, as you can see here. So that was the closest I've ever gotten to an F1 podium. But hey, maybe one day.
Maybe one day. And you've got the, you've got the leap going very well too. I can see that photo.
Once again, I was a bit fitter in those days as well. That's probably about, I guess 20 years, that photo. So yeah, that was a fair while ago. Back when Schumi was still driving, I think. So had to take the opportunity to get on where the podium was and do the jump.
Amazing. All right, let's go through the next one.
This one here, I've got myself. I don't know why I put myself in, not on the top level, but this is actually taken at Phillip Island. There's a fake podium up in the inside part of the facility, and you can take a photo with champagne and flags and all that kind of pretend you're on the podium. So
absolutely. Now, for anyone else looking at this photo, when I first saw this photo, I'm Has anyone ever told you that you have quite the resemblance to Jenson Button back in his day?
No, no one
No.
has said that whatsoever.
Well,
But is that? I guess that's a compliment. He's a good lookerista. So I guess I will mention one thing. In that photo, I have my Forsyth Racing hat from the IndyCar days. My hero, all-time hero, is Greg Moore. Rest in peace. We've lost him for quite a few years now. But here, Greg was my hero, so I'm repping the Forsyth Racing hat from IndyCar in that photo as well.
if you're watching us for the first time and you've had a look at that photo, and like me, you've thought, that looks a bit like Jenson Button. Let us know. Do you think it looks like Jenson Button? Let us know in the comments.
We've also got some free vouchers to get your eyes checked as well, maybe. I don't know. But no, I appreciate that. That's very, very kind of you.
No problems. Okay, let's go. Let's move on to. Oh, look, you got photos with a couple of legends here.
I do. This is I've got one with the great Craig Lowndes. This was from the Adelaide Motorsport Festival a couple of years ago. Lowndesy was there. He'd just done a drive in. I think was it him that drove the Arrows? I think it was in the test runs of the old F1 cars. And yeah, he was coming along, and I just asked him for a photo. So that was a great one. And also back in. The supercars a few years ago, managed to get my photo with the legend Dick Johnson. So that was in the pit paddock. He was just floating around, and managed to get a photo with Dick, which was great.
And we have to say how lucky we are in Adelaide to have a motorsport festival like the Adelaide Motorsport Festival, which I think is the largest motorsport festival in the Southern Hemisphere. Obviously, Goodwood. In the Northern Hemisphere, I think is probably one of the largest. Although perhaps Monterey out at Laguna Seca is probably up there as well. But as far as Southern Hemisphere, I think we've got the title. I mean, and the Adelaide Motorsport Festival keeps expanding. It seems like every year.
Yeah, it's definitely. I've heard that moniker too of being the largest in the Southern Hemisphere, and bring out all legends. We've had Valtteri in previous years. Crofty comes out quite often. I think David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen are here this year. At least DC is. So no, definitely get the big names. It's becoming a really, really big festival. Yeah,
it's amazing. Right. Okay. So, starting a YouTube channel. Why not start by embarrassing yourself? I'll start with an image. I can't even remember how old I was, but I obviously was into motorsport from quite a young age, or into cars, because my dad built me basically a car, with the aim of the car being that there was going to be a motor on the back. We never got to put a motor on the back, but it did have pedals. So there's me sort of loving life in my racing car.
Looking good.
Which, with the socks and sandals, I think was a beautiful ensemble. And I couldn't actually find there. I know there was a photo of me from. We were lucky enough to go to the Grand Prix in 1987 at Adelaide, and there was a photo of myself in the grandstand. I could not find it, but I found basically a couple of years later a photo of myself. I think it was 1989. There at what is turn 4, so Wakefield Turn, where I was a follower of Nigel Mansell at that point. So I had the Ferrari hat on, and the Ferrari gear, and got a photo there at turn 4. And then back from 1987, when the camera wasn't pointed at me, thank goodness, I had it, and it wasn't the greatest camera, but there's a couple of images from where we were inside turn 1, so basically the centre chicane. So there's a couple of cars from the era, so the Williams, Ferrari, and McLaren, and then one of the Ferrari. So as you can see, our time with Formula One spans a long time. So we thought it was about time that we put our opinions out there.
Yeah,
when it comes
to
Formula
right.
One.
We started watching during, I guess you could almost say the golden era of Formula One, where you got Sergio and Prost, and into the Schumacher era, into all through that, and so we've been watching for getting close to 30, 40 years. So we've been watching for a lot of years, and seen a lot of seasons, a lot of eras in F1, and so we think that's enough to be able to form an opinion. And everyone's got their own opinion, but we like to give you ours.
Absolutely. And let us know in the comments when you started watching Formula One. What era did you start watching Formula One? And while you're letting us know in the comments, please, we'd love it if you could like, subscribe, so that we can continue to bring this kind of content to you. Obviously, as the season unfolds, there's going to be a lot more reaction to not only testing that's happening at the moment, but also when the season gets underway in Melbourne in early March. So Sam, thinking back through your time of watching F1, can you share 3 memories? You could choose, as far as your 3 memories, best, worst, and perhaps something that amazed you the most over your time of watching F1.
Yes, well, obviously one that really sticks in the mind was 1994 Adelaide, the Schumacher Hill. That was a big controversial moment at the time. Obviously, being in Australia, we have a lot of races very late at night, and and back then, and being younger, I didn't always used to stay up late at night, not like nowadays, stay up to all hours watching races. So that was, 1 in the afternoon. We used to watch the Japanese Grand Prix, watch the Australian Grand Prix in the afternoon. And my brother is a massive Michael Schumacher fan. Back then, I wasn't so sure. I was kind of between, a bit of a Hill fan, a bit of a Schumacher fan. And that controversial thing was very controversial in our family as well. It kind of who was at fault for that one? I remember that being a very... And still to this day, people debate, who was at fault for that incident, and that's one memory that I remember sticking with me. A second one, I remember we used to stay down to our holiday house in school holidays, and I remember staying up. We were allowed to stay up, late and watch the start of some of the races. I remember Spa '98 with a massive crash just after La Source going up to Eau Rouge. That massive pile up. I remember that was one thing that stood in my mind. That was just a massive, oh my God moment that luckily no one was hurt. But it was one of those moments. You remember where you were when that happened, and that was a huge moment. And it's just to remember that for sure.
That race ended up being quite chaotic for not only that false start or the massive crash just after La Source. But obviously later on in the race, when Michael Schumacher, who was obviously trying to charge down, I think it was Mika Hakkinen or David Coulthard. I think
it was David Coulthard. Yeah, I remember. And Murray Walker, the legend Murray Walker with that iconic, he's off to see the stewards. Oh no, he's not. It was. I hope that was right. And yeah, just that the look in Schumi's face, he was after someone, and yeah, for sure, it wasn't just the start. It was that entire race was very chaotic. As we found out in recent years, it rains a lot in Belgium around that time of year.
Absolutely. And a final memory.
I guess if we want to go more recent, like 2021 Abu Dhabi. I mean, it was once again, going for all the controversial ones. That's what it is. That was once again been in Australia late at night, very late at night, particularly in the Middle East races, and it was. I couldn't believe it. I thought the race was done. It was like it's going to be a procession. Hamilton was going to take his record of titles, and part of me didn't want Lewis to him because as I said, Schumacher family.
It's controversial.
I know I'm going to get roasted online, but hey, bring it on. But I rate Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher as equals in terms of obviously slightly different eras, a little bit of overlap, but people have a debate who's the GOAT, Schumacher or Hamilton. I honestly don't think you can compare. They're both equally legends in their own right, and I wanted that record to stay equal, just so no one could say, "Oh, Lewis is better because of this," or So it's I was hoping that it was going to happen, Nothing against Lewis, but it was just, yeah, I wanted to stay equal. And I thought it was done for. And then that safety car happened and all the controversy, and mind blown about that whole thing. Still to this day, it's still mind blowing what happened in that race. Everyone has their own opinion on it, what was right, what was wrong. But at the end of the day, it was a bloody entertaining finish. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and yeah, that's the most recent history. That's the biggest one that stood out for me.
I think it was a race. The outcome and the aftermath of it meant that there probably weren't going to be any more Australian race directors for a while. Do you think?
Yes, maybe not. Yeah.
Although there's always going to be that discussion about, did Michael Massey intentionally do something wrong, or did he not? Some people say it was a difficult situation, obviously, to manage, because those were the days when teams could basically call the race director in the middle of the race and you know and file an objection as to where now I think it's an email, and they you can't call the race director anymore.
And I think it's a fair shout that they took that away after that race. I think there was way too much team interaction in that. The race directors have to make split second decisions. You know, the cars were coming around for another lap. He needed to make a decision straight away. And so before it was another lap that goes round. Plus he's got other teams in his ear trying to influence things. Obviously they're going to influence it their way, no matter which side they're on. And so it's just a messy situation to start with, but it's caused a lot of controversy that I think will live on. The arguments will live on for a long time to come still, even to today.
Oh, 100%. 100%. When I think about, it's probably the best memories of Formula One, I think I can't go past Mark Webber's first win, 2009 at Nürburgring. I remember that relief of there being an Aussie who was going to be on top of the podium after so many years. And I remember, obviously, in Australia, we were up late, and I remember jumping up and down on the couch and yelling, and I'm sure my neighbours didn't know what was going on, but it was a great moment, and I'm so glad that we as Aussies have had so many moments like that since, and hopefully more to come, because sometimes, apart from the most recent times in the past, like Australian Formula One drivers were few and far between. So, Alan Jones was up until about 1980 as far as competitiveness goes, but then we had to wait. And notwithstanding and not discounting David Brabham and his time in Formula One, but it wasn't until Mark Webber and the consistency of wins and good results that he got that we got to celebrate, I think, Australian Formula One drivers again, and people sort of started to stand up and take notice, and then that followed on with Daniel Ricciardo, and now with Oscar Piastri. So I think that's probably one of the best. I mean, there's been several. If I was to go to one of the worst that I remember, because I remember watching it live, it is also in 1994 in the San Marino Grand Prix, where watching Ayrton Senna go around the corner, a Tamburello and him crash, and obviously the live pictures were on him, and I initially thought, oh no, he's going to be okay, because a short time after he crashed, and his head kind of moved, and I thought, oh, he's moving, he's okay. And then obviously we didn't know, us watching the coverage, we didn't know that it was obviously the worst thing that could ever happen, and the loss of a legend. And we didn't know till the next day, because obviously in Australia, at the end of the race, you go to bed. And we didn't find it till the next day. And it was an absolute shock. And it was a horror weekend, really, for Formula One. There hasn't been a weekend like that. Obviously, with firstly Ruben Barrichello's crash, which he was injured but thankfully recovered, and then obviously on the Saturday the death of Roland Ratzenberger, and then reeling from that into Sunday, and then during the race the loss of an absolute icon of Formula One. Some people like him, some people don't, and that's fine. But it was an absolute shock, I think.
I wasn't watching the race live. I remember waking up the next day, and so 94. So I was about 9 or 10, and my mum came in to wake me up for school, and she said, Ayrton Senna's died, and I was like, what? Like, what happened? And I just remember just being in shock, because it was, F1 drivers are these amazing, untouchable, undeniable, bigger beings than anyone else. And so to hear that he passed away, it was a massive, and on top of obviously the rest of the weekend, which was horrible as well. I've heard my brother, I think it was, read a book all about by Professor Sid Watkins, who, for those of you who aren't aware, was the the chief medical officer, if that's probably not the right title, but who went around the F1 circuit for many, many years. He was like the chief doctor, and is a fantastic, if you can find a book written by him about, we'll pop some info in the video or in the link, but to hear his story about what he has seen in the years of F1, and he specifically mentions this weekend at Imola, amongst other things. It's an incredible read. So if you find some docos or some books about Professor Sid Watkins, definitely do yourself a favour and give him a read or give him a watch.
Yeah, absolutely. It has so many stories to tell in his time in Formula One. If I finish off with something that has amazed me while watching Formula One, United States Grand Prix at Indianapolis, when the Michelin runners went off on the formation lap and rolled around and went into the pit lane due to the safety concerns, and then we had a race of 6 cars.
The only time Tiago Montero ever got a podium, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as the late great Murray Walker said, in order to finish first you must finish, and Montero did finish.
He did, yes.
And therefore, he got a podium. But it was a bad day for Formula One that day. It didn't help. I feel like Formula One's popularity, it wasn't waning, but it was sort of on a slightly downward trajectory, and that race didn't help. And just watching that, it was a shock. It was an absolute shock.
Certainly in the US, it was very much impacted after that time as well. It's been a struggle, and they're kicking great goals now, with Coda and Vegas and Miami. But back then that was a huge impact with what happened there in the US.
Absolutely, yeah. And look at where Formula One is now in the United States. I mean, people. It just continues to grow, and who ever thought that Formula One would ever be racing on the Vegas Strip? It was Daniel Ricciardo's dream, and it became a reality.
That's right. It's certainly a spectacle for sure.
Yeah, definitely is. So we hope you've enjoyed our little trips down memory lane. That's probably one of the few that we will do as the season progresses, but we certainly will be tying things to the past where it comes to us, and you'll see that in future episodes where we do like to tie the past with what's happening currently. So that's it for our first episode. We hope you'll join us for our view of the stage that is Formula One, the true theatre of speed.